Before there was a scoreboard, there was a swamp. In the early 1800s, a narrow band of land along the Maumee River, barely 5 miles wide at one end, sat unclaimed in the fog between two young American governments. It was mud and marsh and mosquitoes, and almost nobody wanted to live there. But everybody, it seemed, wanted to own it. They called it the Toledo Strip. On paper, it was a boundary dispute, a quarrel over where one line on a map should have been drawn. In truth, it was about the mouth of the river and the promise of canals and commerce that would flow through it. Whoever held Toledo, the reasoning went, held the future. Ohio had been a state since 1803, confident and growing. Michigan was still a territory, young and impatient, hungry to join the Union on equal footing. Both looked down at the same scrap of ground and saw the same thing, something that was rightfully theirs. Neither was inclined to blink. At the center of it stood two stubborn men. Ohio's governor, Robert Lucas, was a former general who did not much care for compromise. Michigan's acting governor, Stevens T. Mason, was barely 23, the boy governor, with everything to prove and nothing to lose. Each summoned militia. Each dared the other to cross the line. In the spring of 1835, they got their war, or something that wanted to be won. Hundreds of armed men marched toward the disputed strip, muskets loaded, drums beating, tempers hot. It was called the Toledo War, though history remembers it with a wry, embarrassed smile. For all the bluster, the fighting barely happened. Surveyors were chased through the woods. Rival sheriffs arrested one another. In the only real skirmish, a Michigan deputy named Joseph Wood was stabbed with a penknife by a man named Tu Stickney and lived. The lone casualty of the war was a scratch. But the anger was real, even if the bloodshed wasn't. Newspapers roared. Politicians thundered. Ordinary farmers found themselves choosing sides over a boundary most of them had never seen. Something in the American character had been snagged, a refusal to yield, a pride that outlasted the argument that started it. In the end, Washington stepped in to break the deadlock. Congress offered Michigan a deal, give up Toledo to Ohio, and in exchange, take the wild, forested Upper Peninsula. To a frustrated Michigan, it felt like a swindle, trading a thriving port for a frozen wilderness. They accepted, grudgingly, and gained statehood in 1837. History would twist the ending. Beneath the Upper Peninsula's snows lay copper and iron worth fortunes, forests worth more. Michigan had lost the battle and stumbled into a treasure. Ohio kept its river town. Both sides, in time, came to believe they had won, which is perhaps the perfect seed for a rivalry that would never quite die. The muskets were put away. The maps were redrawn and folded into archives, but the grudge did not evaporate. It went dormant, waiting, passed down like an heirloom from one generation to the next, looking for a new field on which to be settled. It found one on a Saturday afternoon in the autumn of 1897. The University of Michigan and Ohio State met on a football field for the first time. There were no militias now, only young men in leather helmets, but the old boundary hummed beneath the turf. The line in the dirt had become a line of scrimmage. Year after year, on the last Saturday of November, they returned to it. The maize and blue of the Wolverines, the scarlet and gray of the Buckeyes. Fathers took sons. The cold came early, the stakes felt enormous, and a whole region measured its pride by the outcome of a single afternoon. They came to call it simply the game. No other name was needed. In Ohio, some refuse even to say the word Michigan, calling it only that team up north. The old refusal to yield had found its purest form, ritual, rehearsed, and renewed each fall. The reasons blur now. Ask a fan why the hatred runs so deep, and the answer rarely reaches back to swamps and surveyors. But the geography remembers. The border still runs where 19th-century men once aimed their muskets across the marsh, and every November the ghosts of that quarrel line up for one more play. There is something wistful in it, a war with no dead, a treaty long signed, a piece of land nobody fought over for love, and yet the feeling endures, handed down through canals and copper mines and stadium crowds 100,000 strong. The Toledo Strip is quiet now. The rivalry it left behind has never stopped playing.